Hello and welcome to another Tri-tutors video. In today's video, we're going to be looking at some scene poetry questions for the poem Prayer to Masks. So as always with these poetry question videos, I would firstly recommend that you watch my video where I analyze the poem Prayer to Masks, where I go line by line and through all the details, poetic devices and figures of speech, as well as some important vocabulary regarding the poem. So please have a watch of that video before you come back to this one to answer the poetry questions. I would also recommend that you have a look at my video on scene poetry questions for the poem Solitude. That video is a little bit longer and I go into a bit more detail as to how to answer poetry questions, what skills and techniques and what teachers are looking for in poetry answers. So please go ahead and watch those two videos and then come back and join me as we're going to go through Prayer to Masks questions and some model answers. So let's have a read of our questions. Number 1, refer to line 1. Who does the speaker address and why does he refer to them as masks? This is a 2-mark question, so we need to have 2 different points over here. So we first need to say who the speaker is addressing and then answer the question of why. Question 2, refer to line 11. Account for the sound device. So here it is another 2-mark question, but as you can see, they haven't told us what the sound device is. They are expecting us as the student to say what the sound device is and then for the 2nd mark to account for it. Question 3. Europe to whom she is connected through the navel. Explain the imagery created in this line. 3 marks. So there's quite a bit to do here as it's a 3-mark question. So we need to explain the image, but we need to give 3 different points and a critical discussion as to how this image is effective, why it's present, etc. And question 4. Refer to lines 16 to 17. Evaluate the effectiveness of the question marks with reference to the message of the poem. 3 marks. So over here we need to underline the word message and question marks as well as effectiveness. So we've got to talk about what the question marks do, what they do. We've got to talk about the message of the poem and how these two are linked together and how they ultimately prove effective to the poem. So I would suggest that you pause the video here, try to answer these questions yourself, and when you come back, we'll go through the answers together. So as always, there is no particular memo for English poetry questions. Your teachers and your markers are going to mark your answers based on their merit and according to whether you have ticked off certain, check boxes from the question. So what we're going to do is we're going to go through some answers that I've created over here, just some model answers. Obviously, no one's going to have the same exact answers that are on the slide, but we're going to go through them and I'm going to point out to you where you would give yourself your mark if you have actually checked that box and answered that particular aspect of the question. So question 1 was refer to line 1. Who does the speaker address and why does he refer to them as masks? So the speaker uses the figure of speech apostrophe to address the ancestors. There's 1 mark explaining that it's the ancestors who he's addressing. Now the 2nd mark, we're going to give a reason why. He refers to them as masks are a symbol of African culture and to emphasize the power of the masks. Question 2 said, refer to line 11, account for the sound device. So, the alliteration of the harsh D sound in despotism is dying, as well as the alliteration of the harsh P sound in pitiable princess. You could have chosen any of those. They're both alliteration. You only had to select one. You would get the mark for saying its alliteration, for saying what the particular sound is, and for quoting it. And then the 2nd mark would come that it emphasizes the dramatic descent and demise of European world dominance. Question 3. Europe to whom she is connected through the navel. Explain the imagery created in this line. The imagery is of a mother connected to her baby through the umbilical cord. This usually represents a nurturing and nourishing relationship, yet the speaker has subverted this connotation in line with the poem's theme of colonialism. The image emphasizes how the mother country, Europe, does not have a positive relationship with the colonized country. The speaker relates through this image that there is a need to cut the cord and for the colonized country to proceed forward independently, which emphasizes the theme of the yearning for a new beginning, rebirth of the world, after the oppression of colonialism. So in terms of where your marks are going to be allocated here, so as you can see from the imageries of a mother connected to her baby through the umbilical cord, this usually represents a nurturing and nourishing relationship. There's our 1st mark, explaining what the image is and what it typically connotes. Then the 2nd mark would come in, yet the speaker has subverted this connotation in line with the poem's theme of colonialism. The image emphasizes how the mother country does not have a positive relationship with the colonized country. There's our second mark showing that subversion. And then the rest, which is a critical analysis of this image in relation to the messaging of the poem, there lies our third mark. And lastly, refer to lines 16 to 17. Evaluate the effectiveness of the question marks with reference to the message of the poem. The question marks used to ask for who else are used to emphasize how strong African people are in that only they could undergo so much pain and emerge optimistic for the future. The tone is incredulous. There's our first mark, explaining the question marks how they create this incredulous tone. Now our second mark comes for the message. The message of the poem is of the power of Africa and Africans and the desire for freedom from the oppression of colonialism. There's our second mark. Now on to our third mark, where we link it together and show the effectiveness. The questions reinforce that despite the suffering of the machines and cannons, the people of Africa are resilient and they gain power and strength from the hardships they have endured to aspire to an optimistic new dawn. I hope that you found that video helpful. Thank you so much for watching. Please remember to like the video and to subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you in the next one.